Good morning, guys. Okay, so rate cuts. Everybody is using that as an excuse to say that the market's going to be pumping, okay? And this could definitely be the case. But there's that saying, that age-old saying that's sitting in the back of my head that is hounding me. And it is typically, buy the rumor, sell the event. If everybody is expecting the rate cuts, which is now tomorrow, okay? If everybody's expecting the rate cuts to happen, let's do this. Oops, there we go. The rate cuts to happen, 96% that we're going to be going up. It means that everybody's already bought. And if there's no more people buying, the only thing that the market can do actually is go in the opposite direction. So that's typically why buy the rumor, sell the event plays out. So let's have a look at what everybody's thinking. I've got a lot of tweets and information snippets prepared for you guys, so we can have a look at what the market sentiment is out there from other technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and so forth, so that we can look at this, look at the alts, and then go to the charts at the end of the stream and actually define where would invalidation levels be for both sides. Because as a trader, we can take both sides of the market. We can long and short. And obviously for our HODL bags, it has to go up for us to make money. So we have to manage that risk. Understand where is good buy the dips versus don't buy this dip, that kind of thing. So let's start off with the first message that I can find. So this is from Charlie Bielo, and he basically says that the Fed is cutting rates into 4% average inflation since 2020, but their target is 2%, and it's a fairy tale. They printed trillions, and the bill is still coming due. So basically all the money printing from the previous cycles, everything has made it impossible for the rates to be there. And he says for the rates to get lowered, and, Charlie, you can go and follow him and check up. It's basically saying that if they had any balls or backbone, they would be raking the heights up, pushing it higher still, because inflation is not truly been curbed. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. So there's obviously people looking at the other side and saying, if we look at the charts, silver is probably going to go parabolic like gold. Now, why do people buy gold and silver? It's the original version of Bitcoin, a hedge against inflation. So if these precious metals are probably going to break out, or looks like they want to break out, the reality is that there might be something cooking at on the other end of the screen. So when we look at gold, and where is my gold? If you look at what gold is doing right now, I mean, that's as much a straight line as could be. And as a trader in me, I am feeling FOMO for not enjoying a little bit of a gold pump myself. So I think I kind of missed out on that bus. So if silver, on the bigger picture, I mean, this is still weekly time frame, if this thing can follow suit and turn into what gold did, let's zoom out gold big picture, it means that silver is there somewhere, as maybe getting right sideways and break up, or is it just going to go in a straight line? I don't know. Okay. One thing is clear, that there's a lot of money leaving the Dixie, leaving the dollar. And so if you look at the Dixie as itself, the dollar, which is normally inversely correlated to Bitcoin, what we would find is that when Bitcoin is at all-time highs, the Dixie's at all-time lows, but Dixie's all-time highs, Bitcoin is at lows, So with this chart being as it is right now, would you want to long or short this? Okay. So the argument, it plays both ways in a sense. You can say, well, what do we have? We've got highs, higher high. Okay, we've got lows, higher low. So it's not bearish yet. So there's maybe room for more downside in the sense that this thing could still go and test upper areas. So we do have that resistive scenario. So there is caution at this stage, which is why I'm saying, maybe we need to consider selling the event, because there is maybe a little bit of room for upside before we go back down. Now, the other side of this is obviously if we do break down, we are breaking trend as it is at this moment. The Dixie is going to push down even lower, and that is really good. Now, what supports that from a crypto point of view is that most of the alts, we'll be looking at them later during the stream, their charts have been flat, dead, lining charts there at the bottom. long forgotten. And while that happens, supply is getting absorbed, which means that when we look at those market caps and stuff, they're poised for a really good breakout. Okay, now market caps like this. So let's move over to this one here. So the Fed rate cuts. Let's maybe do this first. There's a lot of these images moving around that, if you look at the RSI, we're breaking through the RSI trend, and that's typically a good sign. When you break through the RSI trend, that's when the expansion happens for the market cap. There's more. There's cup and handles forming. Okay. Now we know when we have a cup and handle, you normally use the bottom of the cup to the edge, and you put that right there. So you will draw a line from there to there, and you put it right there. And normally that will be the measured move. Where would be the extent of this? Now, gold, if we go back to gold, would be a really good example. Let me just quickly load the chart again of a cup and handle playing out right now. So let's zoom in. There's your cup. There's your cup. There's your handle. And at the breakout of the handle, that's normally where you would take the dip. So you would do this. You'll move that around. Okay. Now, maybe that's the case. So maybe the alts are ready for that kind of big expansion. So it's something worth noting. And I was just checking around, and even Michael says that it doesn't make sense to sell the alts, which I completely agree. At this stage, is really tough. Doesn't make sense. The macroeconomic climate is just about to change. The business cycle is about to wake up due to expensive money printing. And that's which makes not the moment to sell. I get that you're done with altcoins. I think we're all done with altcoins because we've been saying alt season, and it just shit isn't happening. And maybe it's worth having a little patience. I mean, I've looked at some of the coins I've bought, and it's like, why? I could have just kept it all in Bitcoin, So it is a frustrating time as well. But now to get to this point, what we've also seen, and there's a couple of these kind of things moving around, is typically when the Fed cuts rates, the alt market explodes. And this brings us back to this image. This is a very nice graphic. Let me just do this again. I'm flying solo today. No Peter in the background there. He's in a seminar. He's a very important man, that. Okay, so, and I'm not saying it sarcastically or ironically. So Fed rate cuts, and the altcoin market cap has statistically always performed really well. Now, as a cautionary information tale, I've shared this picture with you guys many times, and basically what it says, when the Fed pivots, the stock market, which is now the red line, the S&P 500, okay, rallies. And interesting enough, when we look at the data on that, okay, every time the Fed rallies, so since 2025 will be the third year since 1996 with a rate cut, while the S&P 500 is at record highs. Okay, so what happened when the S&P was at record highs and there was rate cuts? Okay, rate cuts, the market kept on pushing higher. The crisis is only going to come on later. So this is what the macro, the data, the statistical data is pointing to. Okay, so let's get back to this. Okay, since 1980, the Fed has cut the rate 20 times with an S&P 500 within 2% of all-time highs. So yet again, when the stock market is really doing well, everything, that's when they start cutting the rates. And then 100% of rate cuts since 1980 with the S&P 500 at record highs led to two more higher highs, record more higher highs 12 months later. So let's say the following. We've got this analysis that we've been using for forever, okay? And this is our, let's time the altcoin market top indicator, chart that we've been using. If it is true that within 12 months after the rate cut, that's only when the market turns bearish. We might have a scenario where if we look at this chart now, and I'll just press this button again. Flying solo is hard, guys. Maybe let's pause it right there. Morning to you, Stanku, Renee, Chris, and all the other people joining in live. Trillist. Let me know in the comments, especially if you're new to the channel. Say hi. I would love to meet you. Tell me where you're tuning in from. And, all the drill. Let's get let's get the chat box running. And if you don't want to say anything, just give me a 777 in the chat, because we want to be lucky. Let's share some luck around. Let's get the market moving. So let's see some 777s, guys. Okay, back to the point. So what we had up until now is typically you'll have the market move past the previous halving. Then it will pass the previous halving's all-time high, move there. And it's normally at that time when the dominance breaks down. So Bitcoin goes up, sits at highs, alt season erupts. We have the time of our lives. Then we had the same happen here. So we crossed the halving. We crossed the previous all-time high. Dominance breaks down. Altcoins erupts. We have the time of our lives. This time around, we did all those things. No time of our lives yet. It's only starting now. And we're running at the end of what Bitcoin is. So maybe the reason this was all retail, me and you kind of guys buying, getting in on Bitcoin, getting in on Bitcoin. This has all been institutions getting in on Bitcoin. It might be the fact that retail is so diluted amongst the 20 million altcoins out there that their alt season will probably only happen later down the road, meaning that Bitcoin is clearly losing momentum. You can see the amount of gains that it makes each cycle as opposed to the first one, up 15,000%, 20,000%. And then it was up, went from 20x. And now we're sitting at 10x. So it could be that alt season will only happen past the fourth halving. And it could be that 12-month window, maybe this is Bitcoin grinding down and this thing being the alt season, only going to be happening later on. And that is something that we just need to guard against, hence the fact that I will be giving you guys invalidations. So let's see. There's some 777. Hey, you know what? My mother's watching. And hello, Skulk. Hello, Louis. There we go, guys. Throw in more 777 and say hi to my mom while you're at it. Okay. So yeah, maybe she'll get into crypto. She's been watching, but she hasn't bought her first coin yet. So you never know. But okay. So where we're at right now, there's definitely room for something like this, that the alts might only move a little bit later. And that patience that we're referring to, there is no expiry or deadline to that. Just as long as we stay above certain levels, we kind of golden. Some coins have been moving well. I mean, there has been really good altcoins out there, but sadly enough, we haven't always been in those ones. It's hard. You never know which one's really going to be the one going today. It's a tricky place to be in. Okay, so let's finish up with the rate cuts. So Goldman Sachs expects a wave of rate cuts, and they expect it to drop to about 3.25%. So 3 rate cuts: September, October, December. And there's a couple of theories around how Bitcoin could potentially move with these rate cuts. And I want to use my point and figure chart for that. One being that where we're at right now is the event. This was the rumor. This is the event. And it could be that everybody bought, and because the event is here, it's now the opposite. We sell down and we go and fill these levels at 104. Build a base. There's definitely liquidity missing there. Okay. Build a base at 104. Make that lower low, which would support the alts like Ethereum and so forth. That still needs, my opinion, to go and test lower levels like 3,800 in Ethereum's scenario on the weekly. And if I even go to Ethereum on the 4-hour, then we look at this, it does I'm not invalidated the idea that that's there. And look at these highs. Look at the RSI. Look at those highs. Look at price. This is all the makings of a wave 4, A, B, C, And C is always 5 waves. 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th. And there's still one more wave down. Okay, scary stuff, but big picture is still bullish because it will move it into buy zones. Okay, so these are all things that I'm kind of wrapping my head around and kind of trying to point out. So it could be that the additional cuts that's going to come later on is going to be what would be the fuel that's going to drive this. Okay, when is the cuts happening? Just as a reminder for those that know, it is tomorrow. So have a look at this. Tomorrow, the rate cuts is going to happen. So, well, the announcement. So if the market doesn't do that, that's going to be crazy. Now, this is now where I want to talk about what Hendrik had to say. He said, why the liquiditists should study history. Liquidity does not drive the business cycle, and severe recessions can set in despite massive liquidity inflows. Now, he's got a point there. Now, the point that he has is typical stuff like this. When you head over to the alts, I'm going to just find the right one. Let me just give me a second. Stuff like that. Solana reserves pushing all-time high. Network activity. Where is that one? Did I know? I might have closed it. Network, Solana's new all-time high staking. Those kind of stuff. Those liquidity highs could potentially look like a really bullish signal, but it doesn't necessarily change the fact that what we're looking at the charts showing that there is some caution happening. It's very bullish at this stage. Okay, so it's worth noting to this. Now, because the economy is not driven by liquidity alone, it's driven by a range of factors, but mainly consumers. And the argument is who's going to be the guys buying right now if there's a relaxation in the monetary fund? It is normally retail. Guys think, I think it's over. Now we can free up some cash, get into the stock markets, buy some crypto, buy some coins. And we know who has to stay holding the bags. It's the majority of the buyers. So he says, in short, we're not early cycle. We're in late cycle. But here is where things get interesting for us and why I think personally we need to be bullish. Because late cycle is this optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria when shit goes parabolic. It means the gains, that if there's going to be any, is not going to be sustained, long-term, locked-in gains. Probably where we are right now with the alts would be safe long-term support levels going forward. So if we bring up the altcoin market cap, total 2, the argument is where we're at right now, this would be typically safe long-term areas. We had a hell of a lot of resistance. We tried to get above it, failed. We're above it again. And we could still even push down to the 1.3 trillion area. These are long-term accumulations for the continuation of the market, safe areas. Okay? And that basically then creates a lot of tough questions. Say hello to those, Mom. Hello, Mrs. EMC. A lot of tough questions for us in going forward with what is there, what we need to decide, because there's enough reason to argue it's bullish, and there's enough reason to argue that we're near the top, and maybe the alt season's not happening, which is what we would normally consider bullish, which is then indirectly bearish for us, because if the alts doesn't move, doesn't give us the X's that we were looking for, it wasn't bullish. I mean, Ethereum in this last week has now lost 6% again. Okay. Bitcoin in the last week been grinding sideways. So it was alt season a week ago, and now what? Bitcoin is now the only thing moving again, or holding strength. So it's that typical stuff that we just need to navigate through. Okay, so there's a few more things that I want to share with you guys before we end off, and I just want to kind of go through. So recession risks is at real uncomfortable highs. Now we know when the rate cuts happen, guys. Okay, a recession follows. Now, I was on a podcast a while ago, and I asked the question to the panelists, and basically what I said to them, listen, guys, Fed cuts, recession comes, and the guy says it's a blip on the radar going forward. Now, if this is your time horizon, he is correct. But if you're buying alts and you're buying here, with the hope that you can make an all-time high. That horizon, a recession isn't a blip, because it can go, like Link in this instance can go right back to 12 again and then go and push a new all-time high. And yes, it would be a blip on the radar, just as much as the guy that bought Link at a few dollars down here with a 10-year horizon is basically just seeing as this is maybe just a little frequency, especially start going monthly, daily timeframes. So it's important to go and identify on the altcoins what would be your time horizon for just that, so that you don't end up, getting trapped by this. Now, an interesting chart that I found, and I still need to go and check at this, and this is the global money risk chart. So let me do this. Now, like I said, I need to go and study this, but the chart paints a very interesting picture for Bitcoin. Where we're at right now, the global risk index is turning bullish. So maybe this weekly analysis, let me just bring back this chart. Maybe this weekly analysis for Bitcoin. 1, 2, 3, load. There we go. Still good. And even if we do reject to 104, this is still a good time to buy the dip. So my consensus with all this information on all this charts is very simple. You have to be patient with the data and everything that is happening right now in the markets. You have to be patient with any altcoins you're holding. Don't try and look for the gains next week or next month, and don't be 100% exposed in the markets, because we're going to zoom in now and I'm going to do some TA on Bitcoin, and I'm going to show you some scary berry stuff, which means that there's potentially still a big shakeout happening, purely because everybody's too comfortable going in the market right now. And after that, then there is this room for a little bit more upside. And the macro cycle is probably going to take effect still. And it means that pivot's going to come. We're going to have our flush. Then there is going to be a few late cycle bloomers, coins that may be pumped. So we're going to have to be vigilant. And then maybe things are going to be over for now. Okay. What else do we have that I just wanted to quickly go through with you guys? I saw one more thing. Let me just quickly go through there. And it was this chart. Now, I saw this, and it was an interesting take on things. So basically, what he did, how he looked at this, and let me just move my camera away. So he's got a moving average running there, and he's drawing a line on Bitcoin, and he's using this as a time analysis tool. So when the price reaches that moving average versus the high, that is typically then a signal where the high would be. So in short, you have this data, you have the line as it runs, and you're waiting for the line to meet the red line. And when you do that, that normally signals where the top would be. Now, this is typical technical analysis fractal plays. So what do we have again? You have the data. So you have Bitcoin running. So Bitcoin's running there somewhere. You have the green line. And once price reaches where that green and the red line crosses, typically that's a top. It did it there again. So the thing is, where we're at right now is that maybe it's not going to be October, maybe it's going to be in 2026. It could be a month here and there. Now, looking at this thing, a month here or there, a higher high there on a candle there versus a candle there, doesn't really change things. So it's another way of saying that maybe we will still have a nice little run, and maybe it's not going to be next month over in doom and gloom. It might be the end of the year or leading into next year. And that's it. I mean, this is not cast in stone at this stage. It depends on how the blocks get mined. That still moves. So there's a little bit of hope and a little bit more upside for you guys. 250 people joining in live right now, guys. Say hi. Let me know if the information is helpful, useful, and if we can now move on to the charts. So while that happens, I've got no other option but to move into the charts. Just a friendly, quick reminder. Today's video brought to you by Bybit. Support the content. Open your Bybit account using my affiliate link. And what that will do is give you access to the buddy indicator. And the buddy indicator is your friend. It's a little trade buddy. It tells you what kind of strategies I would be looking at and what I would want to prefer to be trading. So if we start looking at, let's say, Ethereum, and we start going into say a 15-minute time frame to try and look for a trade, okay, there's Ethereum. Now we've got Ethereum on the 15-minute there. I'll open it up. The buddy indicator said to you guys, well, it's bearish divergence. Go short between the purple lines, TP1, TP2, and there it gave you another bearish divergence, okay? Enter between the purple lines. So at that stage, the box gets drawn, TP1, and it's about to hit TP2. It's got a 65% success rate, guys, but it's got a 1 to or a 7 risk to reward ratio, which means if you risk $100 per trade, when one works, you'll walk away with about $500 because 7R means that, no, it's a 9R, sorry, but you will walk away with about $700 because you're going to be TPing at certain levels. You're not taking the entire position to TP3. One good trade gives you a lot of opportunities to hunt for more trades, okay? And that you can get by supporting the content, okay? Let's get the likes to 777. Yes, please do that. That would be interesting. Let's see if we can get 700 likes. And Dean, yes, as always, I'm happy you found some value. Let's quickly now get into the charts. I think I've said enough and a lot. Okay, so the weekly prognosis then is simple, guys, for us. From a trading point of view, we're in a big bullish sentiment, but we can't trade daily timeframes. So what I have here is very simple. A weekly time frames with leverage. If we look at the daily time frame for Bitcoin, I do feel that we're bullish. Okay, it's simple. But where we're at right now, we're sitting with hidden bearish divergence. The RSI is clearly going up. Price has clearly not gone up. So the invalidation is around 17,400, 500 area around that. If we stay below that range, guys, this is going to go look for demand liquidity, either back at 800, 808, 500, or even as low as, can go as low as 98. Now, my best bet is still this zone here at 104. So the betting man in me says the stars are aligned for more downside. Okay. Now, if the bulls do come together and we get to squeeze the bears out, delete the divergence, then there will be an opportunity for us to buy the access test in the future. So patience is key. Okay. So that is the play for me on the 4 hour for Bitcoin, which means we look at this analysis now in short. This shorter term for the rest of today, maybe leading into tomorrow, we will potentially go and try and get that divergence because we don't have any strong bullish divergence, bearish divergence yet to even start fighting this thing. So where we're at right now, the only direction I think you should be trading would be to try and trade this thing to the upside. And when that divergence hits, we start labeling this as maybe a wave 3, then you have to wait for the RSI to go below 2. Then we will probably go and test these levels. And hopefully when that happens, we would have swept the short out of the market, the short that I showed you guys. Because if we don't, this would be as low as it goes. We will probably keep on doing that. If we do hit that red line, we come back down, I won't think about these lower levels. So there you have it. Okay, so there's a bullish scenario, but then we have to cross that red line, and then there's a bearish scenario. We don't cross the red line, then we'll probably go and visit that 104 level. Okay, that's basically that for Bitcoin on a trader point of view for me. Okay, let's quickly have a look at Ethereum then. I'm going to switch to the chart, and I'm going to go to the 4 hour time frame. It means that Ethereum is a really nice opportunity for you guys to do the following. Okay. We've made a higher high. We now need to turn this into support. Now, if we look at this correction or this price structure here, the RSI is about to sweep the lows. It's a little messy at this stage, but it's about to start sweeping the lows. So downside to maybe say $4,500 in ETH could be a scenario where there would be a short-lived little pump. And if it does turn really bullish, Bitcoin does break through that green line, ETH won't just go to 4.7. It will probably smash through 4.7, start climbing up the pivots and go to higher highs. So 4,500 right now would be considered a trader hunting long grounds, okay, to try and get price back up there. Solana, what happened to Solana? I said a while ago, hold for 240. Now 240 is there. What happened at 240's resistance? Higher high, lower high, strong bearish divergence. Fell below the level. Any upside to this area, I will be shorting Solana. Okay, simple as that. Link I'm using and I'm hopeful was that $24 remains support. The playbook for Link is we want to try and get this breakout, and Link does look poised for 50, but for that, you need a really strong Ethereum because Link is an Oracle service. And we do know that the Oracles at this stage is performing really well. So the betting man says Link is a really good spot entry right now for a hold to 50 cents. Will I hold it below, say, 20? No, probably not, because then the buy zone would be around 17. Now, nearest makes no difference in that stage from a dollar point of view, but that's a lot of percent out of your wallet if that happens. Okay. Coins maybe to keep an eye on as well would be Hype, because it is moving now. So a lot of momentum. Look at that RSI coming back down. So your opportunity to get into Hype lives here at around 50. So it's going to either try and turn $50 into support. At that stage, the RSI will be making a lower low. And then there's the beginnings of another wave to the upside. So have a look at Hype. Wait for a little bit more drawback, maybe to around 50. There would be there's potentially a really good move for you there. Okay. That basically takes me through everything that I wanted to share with you guys for today. Hope it was helpful, informative, and so forth. You know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, share the content with a friend, and make sure to follow me on all my socials, guys. Have a lovely day, and I will see you again come Thursday. Cheers.